This is Scott Richmond
and Arnie Sherman.
You're listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. Hello, Arnie. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm very excited today, Scott. We have a tremendous show. You know, normally most of our guests are not very well known to us, but we have two people that are not only well known to us, to me in particular,
yes,
but to probably our listeners. We have Megan Harrington, lifetime Missoulian, former captain of Lady Grizz. She worked for me for a number of years and then went off to Hollywood to find her fortune, and now is a film producer.
Wonderful.
And doing a documentary about the great Grizz coach, Robin Selvig, who will be joining us later on the show. So we have a special guest. The coach. 865 wins in his career. And the top 10 all time in college basketball. So it's pretty exciting to have both of them join us.
That's next to incredible.
And it's nice to see Megan have her career go full circle from, you know, being sort of an MBA business. You know, first of all, Lady Grizz, which is a big deal. Captain of Lady Grizz. You know, probably outside of the men's football team, the most recognizable sports team in Montana.
And the most successful sports team.
Yeah, most successful over the years.
Over the years, 38 years.
And then got her MBA, did some things. I found her in Ireland. She was working in Ireland, and I'll tell a story that I'll tell her when she's not here, so I won't embarrass her. But we were doing a trade mission in Ireland, and she was there.
What year?
I don't even remember what year, but probably 2002 or 3, somewhere in there.
Okay. Recent.
And she came to this event, this trade mission, because we invited everybody from Ireland who had Montana ties, and Megan came, and I said, if you come back to Montana, I'll hire you. And she came back to Montana. I hired her to work at the World Trade Center. She was a fantastic employee. And the only time in my career that an employee's mother and father came to my office, brought me candy, and thanked me for helping bring their daughter back.
That's wonderful.
It was great.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Megan has 11 brothers and sisters, so they didn't really need an extra member of the family. They had enough people sitting around the dinner table, but they wanted Megan back, and she came back, and I kept her here as long as I could until Hollywood called, and she worked for Empower Pictures, and she still has a relationship with them. She's working on a project called The Dating Project, which we'll ask her about.
Sure.
She's doing this documentary about Robin, which is very exciting. The house that Rob built, and we'll hear more about that.
Yeah.
We'll have the house that Rob built, Rob, on the show. Coach Selvig will be here to join us, and so we're getting 2 for the price of 1 today on the show.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, You know what, Arnie? You never cease to amaze me in terms of the guests that you can bring into this show. You put every walk of life.
Well, I twist their arm and then blackmail
them. What do you have over there?
We won't talk about that on the air.
Okay, well, good. I mean, and tell me a little more about, when you were at the World Trade Center, because that wasn't that long ago, right?
No, it's been a couple of years. 2014 was when I left. So.
Okay, and you started it here, didn't you?
Well, I was the first full-time director of the World Trade Center. I started there in 97. I ran it for 17 years.
Okay.
Megan was there for a good part of it.
Okay.
She was a fantastic person to work with. Organized trade missions. We traveled around the world. She helped companies. It was terrific. And then she wanted to pursue her more creative side. Lives out in California now doing terrific stuff, and we'll find out more about that.
But Montana keeps bringing her back.
That's right. Well, family does. The extra dinner, the plate at the dinner table.
The plate at the dinner table.
And all the, if you do the math, 11 brothers and sisters times wives and husbands and kids, and there's like 5,000 Harringtons running around, and
need benches.
Yeah, if you get $1 from each of them, I think Megan can probably last pretty long. Retire from her career. No, I think she loves what she's doing,
it's nice,
and you'll hear about it.
And a nice theme about the last couple of shows we've done is we have very strong entrepreneurial female guests, who have make Missoula their home in some form or another. They go out, but they ultimately come back from time.
Well, they get empowered and they come back and show us what they can do.
Right, and so we had book publishing recently. We now have film and documentary, so it's great.
Good.
That's great. So anyway, when we come back, our guest will be Megan Harrington. You are listening to What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO, proudly presented by Dawn Maddox, Glacier Sotheby's International Realty, and back after this with Megan and special guests. Hey, hello. So we are back.
We are back.
With What Do You Know? Our guest is Megan Harrington. And guess what? When we told folks in the studio that Megan was in, guess who came out of the woodwork? Okay, a guy named Dennis J. Bedard.
I'll turn my own microphone on. That's all right.
That's okay. You are. Yeah.
Denny,
how do you know
give
Megan?
us a Megan Harrington story.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of a Megan Harrington story on such short notice. I know that she was a really tenacious player and fun to watch. And I've been doing public address for Lady Grizz basketball for 19 years. This will be my 20th.
Right.
But my first year, Megan was on the team. Megan was Lady Grizz my first year. But my first year, we couldn't play at the Adams Center. We had to play at Sentinel High School because the Adams Center was being remodeled.
Is that right?
So that in itself was a bit of an adventure. And I think with the exception,
I'm sure.
with every other talented player, with the exception of Megan, I think was injured that year. So she had.
Do you remember that, Megan?
I do. It was. I actually did get injured that year too. So I was.
Part of that.
Yes,
Right.
everybody was.
What
So it was
year
hard
was
to-
that? What year was that, Megan?
99.
1999.
1999.
The year was 1999.
Pretty exciting.
And it's nice to see Denny, right?
Oh my goodness,
He
yes.
hasn't
There's
aged
no
a
better
bit
voice.
in those 20 years. Or
Yes.
those 20, what is it?
Yeah.
It was only been 10. I think he's
a wonderful
he's
colleague.
remembered that incorrectly. It's been 10 years.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's only been 10, Megan says, but
10
no,
years?
it's a treat to be a part of that. And I know you're going to talk to her about some pretty exciting stuff. She's got
Yes,
going on.
We
So-
are. And Denny,
Cool.
you'll have her on your show when we
Yeah,
get closer
we're
to
talking
the,
about-
We get closer to the house that Rob built gets aired.
Yeah.
So
Looking
we're
forward
gonna
to it.
as
Me
are we.
too.
Thanks for stopping by, sir.
That's what I know.
Thank you. You know a
Okay.
lot more than that for sure.
He does.
Megan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having
So what
me.
the heck you doing in Missoula?
Well, I'm my hometown.
Right.
So coming to see mom and dad, and then working
From
on
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica,
You're
yeah.
a beach woman now.
Yeah, I was built for the beach.
Yes. Right,
When did you go out
exactly.
to L.A.?
7 years ago.
And what brought you out there?
Film. I just kind of had this kind of nudging in the back of my mind for a long time. I was working for Arnie at the Trade Center. Fantastic job, seeing the world, best boss.
Right.
And I had jury duty, and it was terrible jury duty. So I went to spiritual direction and started talking through things. And I was like, I can't, this keeps coming back. And next thing I knew, I applied for a program.
She was already an adult woman professional
was.
with an MBA and took an internship.
I did.
To go to Hollywood.
Where did you take an internship?
It's called Act One, so it's a program. Christian professionals, you can go down and kind of have a place to land.
Right.
But they have people from mainstream industry come in. So I ended up at Empower Pictures as an intern, and from there ended up working with them.
Wonderful.
So, what from your experience with me prepared you to be a movie producer?
that prepared me.
Yeah, right, exactly. What prepared you, Megan?
drove her.
Yeah, I drove you to Hollywood and leave town.
No, that'd be the reason
Give
to
up
stay.
a salaried job,
I
a
know.
good working
From
job.
Missoula to Tinseltown.
Yeah, to Tinseltown
I remember
for nothing.
telling my dad, and he's like, "Well, that's crazy." But
Yeah, Megan lived on Hamburger Helper without the hamburger
Yes.
for a long time.
that was like gourmet.
Yeah, it was gourmet for you.
No, working for Arnie, well, as you know, who is
We all do work for him.
prepare. Yeah, everyone works for Arnie. Just his ability to command a room, to understand business, which is what
Yep.
making movies is.
Drove her out of town.
Yeah, it drove me on a horse. Well, everybody down there's like, "Do you ride horses?
Yes,
you guys
right.
have cars?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we do have cars." It's a pretty advanced place, but some people think it's still very backwards.
So, you're in town and you're working on a project related to the great Grizz coach Robin Selvig.
I am.
And what is that?
Tell us about it.
Tell us.
Yes.
Well, it's
Before
called.
Rob walks in here, tell us what you want to tell us.
I will. Here's the skinny. It's called The House That Rob Built, and it's about, as we know, one of the most winningest coaches in basketball history. At a time when he took over in '78, women's sports was not. They didn't have a big following. A lot of people weren't even aware of that they had a program
Right.
at the university. And then kind of what he created here, the legacy, the lives changed. The women having an opportunity to play sports. You're more likely to get a job, to get better grades, to have higher self-esteem. So all those things that people probably weren't thinking about when the legislation came through. Rob was saying, I'm thinking about that.
You mean
These women are capable.
Title 20 legislation?
Title 9.
9. Excuse
Yes.
me, it was 9 in those days.
Is that right?
Yes. So right at that time, they were enforcing it in '78. It had passed in '72. So, women after women that was from his playing time when it first started had said, he treated us as athletes, so we weren't less.
Right,
And that
sure.
made them rise to the occasion and build a legacy that other girls followed.
Mm-hmm.
So
that clearly had a huge impression on you.
yes, it did, and even more so as I look back. At the time, it was only 40 years ago. When
Right.
you're playing for you're a freshman in college, I'm thinking about I want to play for Robin Selvig. I have the opportunity to be a Lady Grizz. This is amazing. But now as I look back, thinking, boy, that was not that long ago that people didn't have a chance. And and those first girls didn't have, hey, I want to be so and so. They're like, I'm
There wasn't
paving
a
the
role
way.
model, right? There wasn't
No,
even a role model at
there
that
wasn't.
point.
Not for
Exactly.
women, besides a man.
That's amazing. And when you started to pitch and present this idea to the studios or to the production, tell me, what was it? What was the reception like?
Well, the company that I have been doing contract with, Empower, they loved it. But I'm doing it as an independent production.
So it's independent from Empower.
It is, and
Okay.
Montana PBS is the distributor. And we'll look at different platforms as well, like Netflix and film festivals
Different
and a
windows.
niche. Yes.
And speaking of the coach, he just wandered in
Hello,
here.
Coach.
Coach Selvig.
Scott Richmond.
Nice to see you, Scott.
Nice to see you
It's
too,
always
sir.
good to see you. Always a Lady Grizz, wearing, for our listeners, wearing the Lady Grizz basketball shirt.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. How much time do I have to,
You have hours
You have a
to
minute.
rebut everything I've said so far?
So I got to ask you this now that you're in the room. Why did you recruit Megan to come join the Lady Grizz?
Well,
Hey, this is about the documentary.
No, this is your life, Megan
she
Harrington.
grew up in my neighborhood and caused a lot of problems. And no, she's a heck of a player, and that's why we recruited her. She's MVP of the state tournament her senior year.
Right?
And,
She became captain of the Lady Grizz.
oh, yeah,
So she had that leadership skill in her. You saw in her?
she did, yeah. Once we straightened her away and disciplined her a little bit,
Yeah, exactly.
she did pretty well.
She needed
Exactly.
training? Okay.
So
I still
Robin,
do, Scott.
I know you've told the story a million times, and most of our listeners probably have heard it. But how did you? I mean, you were a basketball. How did you decide to coach women's basketball?
Well, I got into coaching women's basketball, not necessarily by accident, but kind of by accident. I'd taken a job in Plentywood, Montana, where I grew up in Outlook. It's the part of the state. Was anticipating taking the boys' job there, but great coach, Zuni McLean, who I thought was going to retire, decided he wanted to coach more. And so the superintendent asked me, well, would I coach the women? And I said, yeah, I'll coach the women. So I ended up coaching the women in Plentywood for 3 years, assisted Zuni in the men's program, had some really good teams. And that's how I got into women's basketball.
And did you think at that point that 865 wins later, you would have had this long of a 38-year career?
No, I didn't think about anything like that. I was basically, when you're coaching, you're worried about your next game. And I had some pretty good teams in Plentywood, some great kids to coach. Intense, athletic, dedicated young ladies, and we won a few games. I think we made it state the third year, and they were a lot of fun to coach. And then I got a call that this job was coming open here. It was just in its infancy.
Right.
Women's basketball. Wasn't sure if it was going to take off, but Janie and I loved Missoula and decided to take a shot at it, and the rest was history, I guess.
So over time, as again we were going over ground that a lot of our listeners know, it became under your leadership one of the most successful, top tier women's basketball programs in the country. Not only by reputation and wins, and I mean your winning percentage was .752, as you know, but in terms of attendance. I mean, when I first came to Montana 20 years ago, I knew about the football team, but when I showed up, everybody kind of said, "You got to go to the Lady Grizz basketball games," and I had frankly never gone to any women's college basketball. I'd seen a little bit of it on TV, and I started going and saw it and saw how competitive, how exciting it was, and that was under your leadership. Did you know? Was there a formula, or is that just a cult of personality for you?
No, there was no goal or plan. I wanted to coach, and had tons of young ladies that were great to coach here, and it just grew. I mean, every year people started following more, and the trick was getting them in the door. We used to play some double headers early on just to get
People in the door
and see, because they would have.
But in a lot of big name schools, you go into a gym that's in the lady program, and there's 200 people there. You go to you outdrew the men. You outdraw the men.
Well, we caught up to the men, and it was really cool to see. This community has supported us so well over the years, and it's one of the things we would sell in recruiting. This is a place where people appreciate you. They're going to come and watch you play, and we've averaged as many as 5,000 a year. Back in the day when you could host an NCAA game, we hosted a couple NCAA games. The way it worked
and
back
that's
then.
in a town of 60,000 people. That's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it just grew and grew, and people needed to. They didn't need to be sold. They needed to see it. It's exciting. They're talented. I quit playing one-on-one with them after about 10 years and told them how good I was instead of demonstrating it.
Yeah, right.
They're pretty good.
So, how do you feel about a documentary being made about you?
Well,
by one of your former players who has who has a cult of other former players that are going to gang up on you for sure in this documentary.
Yeah, I wasn't initially all that excited, though. I know that's what Megan the company she's with does really good stuff. She has a lot of dirt on me from the past, so I really couldn't say no.
Yeah,
true.
There's a little leverage there. So, but it's been fun. The film crew was up, and it worked out really well. That former Lady Grizz put together a little big retirement gig for a weekend, which was a real special weekend for me. And because of that, 100 and some of them were in town, and so they were able to get interviewed and very professionally interviewed and lots of good stuff. So, I'm hoping if Megan has any say in it, she doesn't make me look too bad. But,
the upside for all this, there's some great solace to this, that usually when they make these kind of documentaries, the person's dead.
Yeah,
so in this case, you can think about this, you're alive and you'll be able to see it.
I'm hanging on, but by the time they get her done,
let me ask you
never
a question.
know.
Was it hard coordinating that many interviews in a short period of time?
It was.
Production's not easy.
No, it isn't. And we had Rob down at the field house for an interview, and he's probably exhausted because the weekend's been tiring, and it's Saturday night. And it's going to be a couple hours.
Just to see the whole process, how somebody does it. So, I'm hoping it's really a tribute to this basketball program of which those 100 and some women, and not only that, but the way this town, the administration and things have gotten behind and supported women's sports, women's basketball. So I think the story of this, not so much about Rob, but the growth of women's basketball and women's sports. Because when I did get into it, it was, you didn't know if it was going to go. You didn't know if these young ladies were going to have scholarships, all those things. Title IX was involved, and I always talk about I have 3 sisters, and they didn't get an opportunity.
Right.
One of them had no opportunity in sports. One of them, I think, got 2 years, and one, Sandy, the youngest, who played for me, she actually got about 4 years of high school sports. So it doesn't seem like that long ago. I try and tell the ladies that are playing now, you don't realize what you have or what. It wasn't that long ago you didn't have these opportunities.
No, absolutely. So I like the tagline. I saw the clip, the trailer, Play Like a Girl. Tell us about that.
Well, that was, the guy I played for here at the University, Judd Heathcote. He was pretty tough. I love him. He was a great coach, and I would have gone nowhere in basketball without having played for him. But
who later went on to coach at
he
Michigan.
won it at Michigan State. And anyway, he's a great basketball coach, but I just vividly remember him one day. One of the nicer things he actually said to me the first couple of years he was here was, Selvig, you play like a girl. And that was supposed to be a knock. And I learned later, once I started coaching girls, that was really a compliment.
Right.
Sure.
We interviewed Judd Heathcote. Actually.
And what did he say? Well,
did we tell that story?
Did he remember?
Well, he said, I don't know if I said that, but if he said I did, he probably was.
Question: is there a lot of file footage that you can use and that you have access to cut into this documentary, like game footage?
There is. We have a bunch of tapes
historical?
from Montana PBS, and then the KPX. We talked with them initially, so when we're at the point of going back to see what they have, because there's some great stuff of all the people flooding in during the 80s and 90s to come see this Stanford game.
It's so funny around Missoula.
Sure.
I mean, Rob is just a normal guy. But, in most places, a Hall of Fame coach with 865 wins is in a different, element. And you're just so normal. And so well thought of that the name beloved and coach seem to fit together. Megan, in your interviews, what is that about Robin that's sort of a common thread that the former players kind of shared about him?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that he treated each player equally. Now, they may have to treat him different, but everybody was equal. And no player, whether they started or never saw the floor much, said that they never thought that he treated them any differently than he would treat the person who was the MVP of the tournament. And that he expected a lot from them and then pushed them to the point where they didn't think they could give any more, but not to the breaking point. That he had the ability to get the best out of his players.
Sure.
And to make them, and then a lot of them saying, boy, has that helped me in life.
Right, well, you only had 2 losing seasons maybe in your 38 years?
I don't remember all
I think it was only a couple. Yeah. It was mostly,
I remember one of them.
Coach,
when he was forced to put a hurt Megan Harrington in charge of the team, that's exactly what happened.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you a question. Are there coaches that you've grown up with or knew in your career that you modeled your own style off of?
No, I really didn't. I've learned a lot from many coaches, but I really don't. I never. I'm just what you saw was what you got. I wish I hadn't been so animated and crazy sometimes, but that was.
Well, you are.
I hear Megan laughing. She's shaking her head up and down. Yeah,
that wasn't planned. Believe me, that's the 40 minutes of insanity that goes on during a game. But as I said, Judd and Jim Brandenburg and all the men's coaches that have coached here, the great line of them I've learned a lot from, and just watch it. Pathead Summit. The real pioneers, the Jody Conrads, the Pathead Summit. That's when I got in, when they were getting going, and they're really the ones that got women's sports, women's basketball on the map, and did a lot. So,
in your opinion, is a program like Connecticut good or bad for ladies? I mean, they were so dominant. I know they lost the last tournament by 1 point in the final.
Gino's probably on the ropes a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. He lost one game in 5 years.
I don't know. I think it's good. I mean, I don't know that it's good that one team is so dominant, and it is amazing to me.
Well, it's like the old UCLA on steroids, right? They just keep winning
I thought
and
you were going to say the Yankees, but I was going to
dispute that. That's true, not necessarily the current.
It's just amazing. I mean, there's so many good players out there and so many good programs out there. To one like they have, really, I don't think it just kind of defies description. And Gino obviously does a heck of a job, and they're a program to try and emulate. Not just that they win games, but their class. And so that's been one of the remarkable things to follow. I mean, Pathead Summit, and we followed Tennessee, such a run. And when I first got started, Texas was a team that was old to me. But to do what they have done for this long,
it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible.
I don't as remarkable as any sports.
Did the WNBA ever try to lure you to come over to that side?
No, I've not looked at the WNBA, and that's not something I would have been interested in. And I really had everything I wanted.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I'm not one that wants to live in a big city.
Okay.
This was a great place to raise a family.
Right.
It's a great place to live. We had a nationally competitive program, always hoping to do more type thing, but I never seriously looked at any.
Did you ever seriously think about coaching men at some point?
No, I didn't. And then when the first couple times the men jobs came open, my name was mentioned. I mean, Stu Morrill was the next coach after Mike Montgomery, who's one of my best friends in life. And I was not interested in coaching the men, but he should have had that job, and he did. And after a few years of coaching women, I could never have said, I'm going to move up to men.
Right. Well, why would you when you have people like Megan,
I didn't look, and I didn't look at it as a move up.
Right, exactly. I was going to say. Right.
So let me switch over. Megan, is it hard? I mean, you have to raise money. Producer is synonymous with raising money.
Right. Yes.
And we want to do this first class, right? This documentary.
Yes.
So what's that experience been like for you, going out and raising money to produce this film?
Well, it's been
which, by the way, is going to be on Montana Public TV
Montana PBS
and then other places, that maybe even theatrical release.
Yes, that would be great. it's
Because
just.
we're ready to make Robin a movie star. It's fine.
I mean, look at that face.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Hey, there's a villain in every movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's been great. I think the teaser trailer is a good way for people to get a better understanding of what we're trying to do. But at the same time, people may think that it's finished.
Right.
And the film is that we are in the midst of
most people think when the
fundraising.
trailer's out, it's done.
You're right, and we're still in the
it's a
process.
fundraising tool, the trailer.
Correct. Now, we have done 45 interviews with players.
Huh.
We've done 15 interviews outside of players. Judd Heathcote, one of those, Stu Morrill,
Right.
Some of the news and sports people, and some of Rob's family, and then several interviews.
So you are
with Rob.
seeking sponsors, and if
We are seeking sponsors.
If somebody's listening and they want to, participate, how would they do that?
They could go to thehousethatrobbuiltmovie.com.
You didn't want to get a simple title right now. You just wanted to have the whole story.
Just the whole big story.
And with .com at the end of it.
Tell what it is. Well, our guest is Robin Selvig and also Megan Harrington here on What Do You Know, proudly supported and sponsored by Dawn Maddox, Glacier Sotheby's International Realty. Arnie.
So Megan, tell me a story. Tell me a story, man. Tell me a story about playing for Rob that stands out. I know he's standing right next to you, but you could give a.
Well, now I'm on the other end. Usually we're asking all the questions.
That's right.
So now I'm getting some of the questions.
Yes, exactly. Tell me.
I think it is hard to pinpoint, and a lot of the ladies said that as well, one specific memory, and a lot of them are on
Because
the road.
it's all blurred.
It's all just
you were drinking mostly during that period of your college career.
It's very fuzzy. It's very fuzzy. I think it's those times in the locker room after a loss or after a win, when everybody's a little emotional and, he's telling you he loves you, and if it's a difficult loss that, he just had this way of motivating. And so the memories that I have are playing, but they're also road trips. And now they don't do this much anymore, where we play Trivia Pursuit in the back of the bus, and now everybody's on their phone.
Yeah, because it's tough after a loss, getting on the bus.
Oh, no. After a loss, there was no talking. Yeah.
No.
It was very silent.
Yeah.
But after a win or on our way, he got to know us as people. And so the memories I have just are the way that he presented himself of really a mentor, a model, a teacher of, boy, that's how you handle that. Like, I want to handle things in life the way that he does. And he does that without telling you. He just does it by the way he lives. So that's, but don't tell him that. That would be super, that would be super weird.
What's that like, by the way? Like, I'm always curious about the locker room after a win or after a loss. What's the conversation and it's not just the conversation. It's clearly everything that leads up to that.
I mean, you can't say the same thing every single time in a season, right?
You have a relationship with your players that's on a level that's deeper, per se, than even their families have with them.
Yeah, well, the locker room it's just like there's a special aura. I mean, it's a real team. You have to be in it. You have to be there. Even the bench during a game, it's like there's just electricity. You're in your own zone.
Well, you're in your own zone. You're playing a team.
obviously-
You're trying to win. You got fans all around you. They're 10 feet away. You can't even have a private conversation without people hearing it.
No, and my mother reminded me of that a few times when she sat behind the bench. But you don't. Honestly, I'm oblivious. I couldn't know the crowd was there for 40 minutes of a game.
Wow, that's how
you could make a fool out of yourself. But it's a real special thing, and my greatest memories are similar.
Yeah,
it's in the locker room after a tough loss or a big win or things like that really are team things. I don't remember scores. I remember we won or we lost, but that isn't really what you take away, I don't think, from coaching.
Right. And you had I think maybe 6 NCAA tournament wins. And
something like that.
What was that like playing in the big dance? I mean, obviously that's what everybody aspires to. You want to win your conference and get to the dance. And so what was that like? I know, losing is losing, but when you win a game like that, how does that how do you remember about that?
Well, those were big
Megan
thrills.
didn't have that experience.
Almost. That last year, Georgia, it was super close.
It was close at half. No, that's a thrill, and what I am proud of that almost everybody that played here got to experience the NCAA tournament. It's done well. You can tell it's a big thing. You want to win. It's been a long time since Big Sky's won a game. I think it's 15, 16 years. We have won, I don't know, 6 maybe, as you mentioned. We won a couple on the road. We won at Wisconsin one time. We won at San Diego State. But the thrill, and of course you don't always, you're usually at least we don't usually get a great seed.
Right, no. Yeah.
The last 2 times we almost won was UCLA and Spokane and Louisiana Tech here.
Yeah.
So we had teams, and I always thought, even when we got the 16 seed, which I don't think we should have had a couple years ago, we went to Notre Dame, and you just couldn't help thinking, God, there's got to be a way.
Yeah, right.
We're going to jump up and throw in threes from everywhere, and they're not going to play very well. And we got drilled, which is what because they didn't. There's a reason they were.
There's a reason you're a 16. Well, not that you shouldn't have been a 16. I agree with that, but there's a reason they're a number 1 seed.
There's a reason they're number 1, and they're not going to come out and play bad.
No,
which we would need to have it happen. But you always have that holdout, that thing.
Sure.
I mean, somebody. Can
well, you won 6
special.
when you were, and the 6 that you won, you were all underdogs in every one of those games.
For sure.
So you were able to pull that out and win, which is really, you want to make sure that's reflected in this documentary.
I'm taking notes.
Underdog. Good, I'm glad you're taking notes. So I know Coach is a classy guy. He's above all of this. But as a player, was the Montana State game more visceral than most of the other games?
Well,
the rivalry.
So the NCAA, all the games. Then girls did say this. He prepared. It didn't matter who we were playing. He was going to prepare the same way,
right.
Same intensity. But yes, that game in Bozeman is one no player wanted to say, "Oh, we lost to Bozeman my junior year."
Right.
It's just not something you wanted to say. It is, and it's a bus ride, so it's not pleasant coming back if you do lose.
Right.
But that's what makes that great, though, to have that interstate rivalry. It's hundreds, of years old of football. Yeah, the rivalry between the schools.
Well,
that's a special
Montana,
game.
It's a special rivalry. I mean, there are places. I mean, I don't really think, for example, Michigan State rivalry is as good as the Montana State rivalry.
Well, there's none better.
No, I really don't. I don't
none
think
more
so.
Intense, and when you have 80-90% of the state that's focused in on that game.
Right.
Because there's not that many people in the state.
Right. Everybody's watching.
And generally you're either tied to one school or the other in some way. If you couldn't get into the University of Montana, you went to Bozeman, and so you were tied there.
Right.
You've had many players that have played for you, obviously, over the 38 years, like Megan, who have gone on to some really cool, interesting careers. Are there others that are kind of have followed their passion and that you're proud of?
Oh.
I imagine a lot of them you are.
Yeah, lots of them, all of them. There's a whole bunch of them that are great moms and great business ladies and great at everything to do. They're really good people. I mean, I coached really great people,
right.
And they're all good friends.
Yeah.
One thing about our get-together, some of them from my first teams are probably now Facebooking with some of them from my last teams. They
sure, it's the network. Well, the thing about coaching for
common.
38 years, I mean, these people have grown up. Some of the players are almost as old as you are.
Yeah,
at
my
this
first
point.
team. I don't know what I was, 24, 25, or 6 when I got the job.
Right.
There was 20-year-olds on the team.
Right.
And,
so that's pretty incredible. I mean, it really is.
And that October reunion. So he didn't know there was going to be over 100, thought there 30 or so, and we got it on camera. Thankfully, I mean, just the electricity in the room, and it came and people are crying, and just that moment you go, wow, no, this can't happen
I
everywhere.
had no idea it was happening. I knew Gene and Linda. There were some people that worked really hard on it, to which I'm eternally grateful, but I had no idea they had put together that big a shindig, and it was a lot of fun.
So we know what Megan's doing now. She's doing this documentary and trying to make a living in expensive Santa Monica. What are you doing post coaching now?
Well, I'm enjoying life. I have to say this. It was awkward at first. It's different, but I've taken up golf again and played a lot of golf. I've spent a lot more time with my 2 boys, and I have a granddaughter now who's in town. We've been able to get down and see them in California, been up to see my folks and get together with our family and just do some things that I really didn't want to miss out on.
Because you didn't
retire. Busy.
Most people retire because, one, they're fired in sports, right? Or they die. In your case, you had a you had a good last season. I mean, you had more than 20 wins your last season. Am I correct?
Yeah.
You had a good last season. You're still a young man. I mean, you weren't even retirement age, technically. And you left. And I did read that that part of the reason you left was that the recruiting grind is so difficult. Well, you want to talk about that for a minute? I mean, 38 years of going, it's not just coaching games and planning for games. It's getting your players. And what's that like?
Yeah, well, there's lots of things I miss and lots of things I don't miss.
Right.
And every job has tough things. I would never want to say, I had a great job. You know, every day I was involved in something with kids I loved and things I wanted to do. But there, you know, things, you know, it was difficult for me. I think some coaches handle it better, but you're basically worrying all the time. You get up every morning and you're worried that Megan did something downtown, or you know, we're not going to get
Megan's
the next
in jail again. We got to bail her out.
Or injuries.
In injuries, there's no and the recruiting I did mention, because recruiting has become a year-round thing, and there's lots of parts of recruiting I used to love, but and I'm glad I wasn't sitting in a 100-degree gym in July this year, like I have been for 40-some years, and you know, it's just. When I first started coaching, there was nothing in the summer, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And so, you know, those kind of things, which, again, you shouldn't whine about. It's still a great job. But I was worn out from that stuff. And I really didn't, you know, my granddaughter had a little to do with it, too.
Right.
I mean, my wife retired, I think, 4 years ago from teaching, but she's, you know, got to down and see him a little more often, but wanted to go more. And I really couldn't enjoy being away from the program for a couple days. I might make, and then I'm back worrying about something. So I can now, you know, I went to Deadwood over Memorial Day with the family and the folks. And
there's a world out there besides gymnasiums everywhere.
Yeah, I wasn't checking my phone and all that.
Yeah, because I could tell. You mention a town, and all you think about is what the gym looks like in that place.
Yeah.
You know, that's about all you see of it. Well, but you were fortunate enough to be be replaced. I mean, the succession of your coaching career is by an All-American player who had been your assistant coach for a number of years. And do you still have? I mean, do you talk with her? Do you have?
Yeah, we visit, but not very much. I really.
I mean, she had a lot of time under your leadership. So.
Yeah, I mean, my assistants I've had with Trish and Annette and Shannon, they were there with me forever, and now Sonia joined. They're all part of this Lady Grizz family.
Yes, family.
But I think the best in terms of me now is I'm not there now. I don't want to be emotionally tied to it. That's
right.
And I don't think it would be fair to Shannon or whoever.
Why be emotionally tied when you're not being paid? Yeah, that's important. I mean, at this point,
that's exactly right. We could have worked something out there. But anyway, you know, I think it's only fair it's somebody else's deal, and it's not mine anymore. You know?
Right.
I had a real
it's hard
sense of ownership. But
38 years is hard to give up. I'm impressed that you're able to take that attitude about it, because 38 years is yours. It's yours. I mean, Lady Grizz and Robin Selvig. That's what it was for 4 decades.
But
Let's do a quick ID. Our guest is Robin Selvig and Megan Harrington, and we're talking about a documentary Megan's producing about the coach. And when we come back, let's have our final moments with both of them, and you know, make sure our listeners know how they can be involved with the film, and any other questions that Arnie you might have.
I have many more questions.
Fascinated with coaches being able to detach after 38 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
We'll be back after this. And we are back with Coach and Megan.
Megan, you are working on another project that intrigues me, and I want to just take a minute or so to hear about the dating project.
Okay, well,
tell me about that.
It's called The Dating Project, where you follow.
That excited Scott.
Yeah, there you go, Scott. Yes, 5 single people. We follow them in the dating world in the age of social media, hanging out, texting, friends with benefits. How do you navigate the world of dating?
Wait a minute, where? In Los Angeles or Montana?
They're all over. So it's 5 different people. One's in his 40s, and he's in L.A. One's in her 30s. She's in New York. And another's in her 20s, was in Chicago, is now back in Monterey, going to be in Monterey, and 2 college kids from Boston College.
And where do you see this as a TV?
It's going to initially start out in colleges. And the plan right now is October for about 20 colleges, then a limited theatrical release through a Fathom. They do the Met Opera as well. You do a 1 or 2 night release, and then that would be around Valentine's Day. And then they would like to go possibly to TV and definitely to Netflix and Amazon and iTunes.
And when you say colleges, what does that mean? You mean they're going to exhibit them at college campuses?
So we'll screen it on some select college campuses.
Like student centers and things like that? Is there a common theme with the dating? Is there like a...
Well, the struggle with all of them is quite common. Most of them just don't date or don't know how to date. The college kids, when we went, this professor does a dating assignment. And she was like, a date when it's 2 people and they're all writing down 2 people. You know, you have to ask in person. You know, you have to have...
You need instructions
Yeah.
date?
You have to have 5 questions. Yeah. And it's funny. She's like, have 5 thoughtful questions, but it's just a skill. and a social script that is kind of gone by the wayside. In the 50s, you know, everything went out the window. But some of those things were, like she says, the professor, like manners. They kind of help you know what to do. And now people don't really know what to do.
I saw two people at a restaurant. I was listening on the conversation, and the bill came for the, and the guy said, "I'm in for 20." That to me was not dating, right?
I've seen some of this, though. It's really good. It's really interesting.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Now, did you think that when Megan was playing that she had coaching, she was coaching material?
She wasn't coachable. So I don't know if she was gonna
No,
I'm surprised you haven't coached, Megan.
She could have.
No, I don't think it would have been a good coach, but I do like to watch.
Well, being a producer is kind of like being a coach. You're coordinating a lot of different elements, a lot of different players, right, to pull in the same direction. It's not always easy.
Right. There are a lot of similarities, but there's also a gift. I mean, Rob, it's a gift that people have for coaching. And it's just, you could play, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. Even if you are a great player. I'm not saying I was a great player. I'm saying people who were great players may not be the best.
So you're the MVP of the high school tournament in Montana, right?
Right.
And were you recruited by anybody else beside Montana?
Yes, there were other schools that have been talking to me, like
beside
Tennessee and Connecticut. No, I'm just kidding. No,
beside the correctional institution.
But they had a really good team, so I don't think I could have made it.
Why did you go to Montana? And
well, actually, when I was that's the only place I ever wanted to play. So, I have a big family that grew up here. Rob lived down the road. My dream was to play for the Lady Grizz. That was it. And so, it ended up happening later, right at the right time. But when I got that call, it was the best.
Cult, Robin, I see on Facebook little 1-year-old kids dressed like, Grizzes already.
It's a pretty good story because we didn't offer Megan early.
Right.
I don't remember what the situation was. We had a lot of guards or whatever, but she finished so strong. But anyway, I made the call one night to Megan and said, "This is Robin. I've got a scholarship for you." And she's like, "This isn't Robin. Or, is this Robin really?"
Right? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he would play.
Robin really?
People play jokes on me.
She's a prankster, too.
So that's how it came out.
Oh, really, no, you ended up getting mad. So finally I said, "No, this isn't." He's like, "Listen, do you want the scholarship or not?" And I was like, "Oh, it is."
So, question for you, though, Megan. Is there something that everyone has a preconceived notion of? This is who the coach is. Is there something that we're going to learn in this documentary about him that we don't know?
Yes, I actually think so.
We're a spoiler,
right? Well, what we want to tell is a great story. Sure. So I love that it's Montana, but this was happening in different places. But what was happening here was special. I think a lot of people have no idea that Rob, they're like, "Well, he's crazy during the game. You watch him. He gets in the locker room calm, biggest heart, generous, kind." And I think it'll just be that evolution of, man, that's a man behind the coach.
Is that right, Coach? Was it like almost like when you were in that zone, like everything was shut out, and so
it was 40 minutes of insanity is what I call it.
Right.
I honestly wish I wasn't.
I noticed when watching you, Coach, you were more angry at the referees than the players.
I was never angry, and people say I yelled at the players. I was cheering for the players.
Yeah.
You can mix that
up.
Yeah.
Make a whole career out of it.
I like a lot of the 4-letter words in the cheering words of it.
Was that right?
See, I'm not proud of that, and I couldn't change. I mean, you'd like to think.
Well, you are who you are.
You are who you are. That was the intensity you brought to the game, and the players respected and responded to it.
Well, I mean, one of the things about sports, particularly in basketball, because it's very fast and you got a lot going on. It is hard to correctly officiate every play, right? I mean, these guys are human,
very tough,
particularly at the college level. They're not, you have your concerns at the pro level, but certainly at the college level, they're not all rocket scientists who understand the game as well as the coaches understand the game.
I have a good relationship with officials. I don't think I got a team my last 6 or 7 years. I apologize to them, too, when I was out of line.
Sure.
And it is a tough job.
It is a very tough job.
And
I think it's rare that there are, a whole community gets around a college team and emulates, and they want to be a part of that. There are very few sports like that where that exists, right? Where it's just,
it's a small town, and it's the only game in town. I mean, if you're in New York on a women's team, you got 100 other sports that are going on.
You have St. John's, and you had
when the Lady Grizz are playing, there's nobody else playing. I mean, that's what's so great about it.
That enabled it to become a big deal.
Right,
much easier.
Sure, go ahead.
Robin, are you thinking about doing anything as well in terms of a book or some type of? Do you want to tell your story In your own words.
No. I really,
Keep telling your story.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing this
After the documentary, there's a book.
Wasn't such a pain in the butt.
I'm.
That's
Yeah,
the truth.
Never say never, by the way.
Well, yeah.
If I was your agent, I'd say never
thought
say
when I
never.
retired, I didn't know if I wanted to do something else. You know, this
Sure.
is kind of a learning process. for
Sure.
me. Am I going to want to do something? It was. You don't know. I like how it is right now. I'm very comfortable with
Sure.
that I did retire, but who knows what the future holds? I'm not.
Do people
I'm
ask
not
you to do-
that old.
You're not
No.
that old, but do they ask you to do speaking engagements?
I've done quite a bit of
That would be
speaking, and I
great.
was pretty busy since I was done speaking.
Plus,
at
your
some different
commitment. I
things.
mean, you didn't leave Missoula. You didn't move to Florida.
No,
right?
and we aren't
You're
going to.
here.
You know, I was
Or
surprised how
Arizona.
many people asked me, "Are you going to stay in Missoula?" I'm like, that would never entered our
My
mind.
mind. No,
to
I mean,
go
you're in the
somewhere
best.
else. I've got
you're in
a
the
great,
best place in the world.
well, great group of friends, a beautiful place to live. I mean, that
you can enjoy it.
that would. That's one thing I'm sure is not going to happen.
Sure. Let me ask you: do you go to Lady Grizz games?
I went to all last year. I don't think I missed a home game.
Nice.
Followed them close, so I got a seat a little higher up, so I'm out of the picture. And it was their fun group. You know, all those I did. I never got a chance to recruit the ones that to coach the ones that were new last year. I
Right.
had to tell them I was going to retire, but the rest of them I've shed blood, sweat, and tears with.
So that's
Which is-
fantastic. That's
now, how about
really
your
good.
grandchildren? What sports are they pursuing?
Well, it's only
and I only have the
Grandchild-
one.
Oh, one.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
granddaughter,
Right.
right?
3.5. Right now, she's pursuing being a princess, and she does a good job.
is
of
that
it.
Megan handed her the
Yeah.
crown?
She's down
for
in
that?
L.A.
Yeah, they're in L.A. and
Okay.
and I have a son in San Francisco, and so we're hooking up. We've hooked up a lot already, and we're going to hook up some more this summer. And I'm loving
If you're
that.
going to talk about hooking up, you ought to watch Megan's show on dating.
Tinder.
Hey,
We got to be careful with that
I
word.
had a chance if they had text back in my day.
Megan, where can where can people actually get more information about you and the production
projects
work?
you're involved in.
Right.
Well, for the dating project, it's thedatingprojectmovie.com. We'll keep things simple. And
So you can remember that.
yeah,
Dating
so,
convention, that,
yes, yes. So you can check that out there.
And it's the Dating Project
Movie.com.
movie.
And there's a
And if they
trailer
want
there.
to just get hold of you to talk about future projects, how do they get hold of you, Megan?
Megan Harrington.mh at Gmail. MEGAN Harrington.
Good.
.mh
.mh. MeganHarrington.mh.
at gmail.com.
Correct.
.com.
Thanks for helping me with that, guy.
Okay. Helping.
Look at that was a team effort.
And about the movie about Coke.
You always needed a lot of help, by the way,
Yes, I
Megan.
did. True.
What's the website address again?
The House That Rob Built Movie.com.
Beautiful. And Coach, anyway, if you want people to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Well, in my garden or on the golf course on Monday through Thursday.
Can-
And on
Never.
Friday night at Stocks.
Oh no, come on! I
He's like, was it
Right.
cribbage? What do you
thought I was
guys
gonna
play?
Make a living playing cards, but that's not working.
No. Hey, it's been a very enjoyable to have both of you on and to reminisce about the good old days of Lady Grizz basketball.
Yeah,
Thank you for
so
stopping
Thank you
by.
both.
Great, thank you.
You guys take care.
Arnie, see you next.
Yep, next week, Scott.
Thank you for listening to What Do You Know?
I can't wait for the next show, Scott.
I'm excited too, Arnie. If you'd like to suggest a guest, send me an email at scottrichmond@townsquaremedia.com. We'll see you next week. And thanks for listening to Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290, 1015 FM, and newstalkkgvo.com.